name is Marilyn Lee. I'm the Executive Director of Loving Houston, and I want to welcome you all to our 2020 end of year celebration. Our mission at Loving Houston is to advance community transformation by helping churches to serve local schools. One day, we want to see every single school in Greater Houston with a committed, caring church partner so that every student, every parent, every teacher can experience the love of Jesus in a tangible way. This has not been an easy year for any of us, whether you're a pastor, a principal, a teacher, an administrator, a volunteer, or a parent. And it's also been really hard for our children. And that's why we're all here today. That's why we do what we do. Because wherever we're coming from, whether the church side or the school side or the nonprofit side, we want the best for our children. And not only for our own personal children, but for every single child in our neighborhoods, our communities, our cities, and across Greater Houston. God has called each and every one of us to love our neighbors as ourselves. And that's what we're doing here through the work of church-school partnerships. As I mentioned at the beginning, our mission at Loving Houston is to advance community transformation by helping churches to serve local schools. And up until this point of our history at Loving Houston, we have really been focused on helping to start church-school partnerships. So figuring out ways to inspire and to equip and empower churches to begin relationships with schools, which makes sense in the early phase of our organization. And now, 7 years in, we are looking ahead to the impact of these church-school partnerships. We don't want to just be serving just to serve, to make ourselves feel good or to be able to give ourselves a pat on the back. But we want to make sure that we are following God's calling to love our neighbors as ourselves. So if there is anything that we ever see in our school partners that we wouldn't want for our own children, that is what we want to take a deeper look at. That's what we want to come alongside a school to do something about. And we've been so fortunate to have BJ Ramon as our Houston ISD district coordinator. As long as I've known him, he has always been so passionate about community transformation, and especially seeing the school as the hub of the community. So this year, he has been bringing together several different groups of people, organizations, networks around various feeder patterns in Houston ISD. And today, we're going to hear from one of those collaborations. They are working with the Worthing High School feeder pattern in Houston ISD. And today you're going to get a chance to just get a glimpse into what they're doing. And as a result of listening to them, you'll hopefully have a better idea of what we mean when we say that we want to advance community transformation by helping churches to serve local schools. Everett Hare is the principal at Worthing High School. He was previously the principal at Bastion Elementary, which is where Gusta Booker's church, Greater St. Matthew, first got involved. And now Greater St. Matthew is also serving at Worthing, following Principal Hare there as well. And then this year, Adam McCain also brought his awesome mentoring program, AdamsWalk, to Worthing. And then Darrell Jackson has brought his faith and finances curriculum that he developed through STCH Ministries. And so you can see how every single one of these people has his own network and expertise, and they're all coming together as co-laborers, as brothers in Christ, to care for the students, but also to really empower them to succeed in life, which I love. So Principal Hare, could you start just by sharing your vision for Worthing and for the Worthing feeder pattern community?
Sure, absolutely. So good afternoon, everyone. Pleasure to be here and speak on behalf of being a leader for a school. It's been a very trying year. And it's interesting because when we are not dealing with a pandemic, we're still faced with a plethora of challenges and things to overcome. And so, with everything that's happened with COVID-19, it's kind of just added on top of the things that we already have to plan for and figure out how to troubleshoot so we can make sure we're providing the resources, the instructional needs of our students, but also for our community. As Marilyn stated, I started my principalship at Bastion Elementary School, which is in the same neighborhood here in Sunnyside, Southeast Houston. And so I loved every minute of working in the elementary campus. That's where I'd spent the majority of my time teaching and leading as a specialist. And so having that humble opportunity to be the leader there was truly a pleasure. And full circle, Miss Brittany Davis and I used to actually teach together at Pleasantville. So shout out to her. She's an amazing colleague and friend of mine. And so just thinking about being in a community like Sunnyside, there are different areas around the greater Houston area that are very similar. There's a lot of challenges where you have a very, very high percentage of students with low socioeconomic status. There's a lot of unemployment, a lack of healthcare services, counseling, all of those different challenges. And we always try to think about ways to really just providing the supports that our kids need, because we know from the school standpoint, in order for us to truly provide the educational services that our kids need, we have to make sure that we're also supporting them, as they used to say, as the whole child. And so that includes making sure that they have food to eat or food to take home, because they may not have food in their place of residence. Transportation to be able to get to and from school, activities, organizations, and things like that. So it really plays a major part. So, from the elementary standpoint, I spent quite a bit of time not only fixing situations of providing the academic supports for our students, but I also thought about how to get the community involved, and had the wonderful blessing of meeting Reverend Gusta Booker and starting that collaboration piece that really helped. And when I tell you, him and his group of men's ministry came in, they were dedicated and committed, and the kids built relationships and bonds that'll be there for years and years to come. And it went again beyond just the academic piece. They would have some even transparent conversations, because some of our kids don't have somebody to talk to when they go home, or they haven't had those counseling services or whatever it may be. And so we really started that whole bond and relationship at that moment. Lo and behold, was blessed to have an opportunity to be promoted to high school in the same neighborhood, which is amazing because I get to see my students that were in elementary now in high school 5 years later. So it's kind of come full circle. And again, it's just a true blessing. The vision for our campus, we're expanding. Worthing is now an early college high school. And so we're providing a lot of opportunities for our students to be successful. We definitely have our main focus of the academic supports, but we now offer a lot of the career and technical programs as well. So we offer instructional technology, agriculture and animal science. We have hospitality and tourism. We also focus on education and human and growth development. And so we're pushing those things. We are becoming an international baccalaureate school. So it has some heavy focuses there on our students really being just a rigorous type of educational preparation piece, but also making sure that they're getting ready for college. And we're doing everything we can to support that with their learning styles. And so as we continue to just expand what we can do from inside and internally with the school, my focus, I've always been of service to the community, because when we think in essence, where are our students going to be years down the road, they're going to be the community that you're serving. And if you want to see that change, you're going to pour as much an investment into them now, but also support the things around them so they can not only just want for better, but they'll know how to do better. And so establishing as many partnerships around the campus is truly important. Some of the partnerships I was able to bring from Bastion and just kind of keep connecting. People like Miss Felicia Jones with Smart Scholars, Hope Farms, which is up the street. Our area is a food desert, and our students really have no knowledge of, quality growth from a seed to a plate. And so just bringing in those types of things. But we've done literally 5 or 6 food distributions over the course of just this school year outside of the ones we were doing for the pandemic. So truly just putting that investment back out into the community. But I have to, again, just take my hat off to Reverend Booker because, when things are in need, it's always a blessing to be able to call on people and say, hey, let's talk about how we can reach out to the external factors and really support our students. At the high school level, for technology, we've had a one-to-one ratio of the laptops. But when I looked around at the middle schools and coming from the elementary schools, they were not at that point. And so we took some time looking at how we can get some people to donate and do technology distributions. We had one company that came in and donated, I think, 50 laptops to the school I was at Bastion Elementary School. We have 30 that are coming for next week, and just continue to build on those types of practices. We're also setting a model for our students. One of the issues that's kind of plagued is that it's beneficial to have magnet programs all around the city, but when they're located in areas that are not of your neighborhoods and your community, it draws your kids that are high performing out of that community. And that's not in essence what we want to achieve, because then it filters basically what's happening in the schools like this. And you see the impact with the academic performance, you see the impact with the increase in behavior, disciplinary infractions, and things like that. And long term, we look at even the dropout rate versus the graduation rate. And so with our group, one of the things we truly work on is for the full feeder pattern to be involved in a lot of the conversations. I do monthly meetings with every principal in my feeder pattern, and we talk about shared services. So we call in people that do behavioral counseling or Circle of Hope that works with the family of any traumatic situations and things like that. And so it's a matter of setting up a model that really helps every school in the neighborhood. And also there's consistency with our students. We're streamlining the activities and programs. And so if we have a STEM program at our middle school, how can we start the coding process at elementary campuses so students and parents want their kids to stay in that same cohort? And by the time they get to high school, we're already reaching some advanced levels because they have that background knowledge. So with the support of Reverend Booker, Mr. McCain, and Brother Jackson, it's truly been just a blessing to see how these things are coming to fruition. And we're truly excited about where we're going in the next few years.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Principal Hare. Just as you're talking, it just reminds me why we want to partner with principals like you in our schools, because your vision for your community, for your students, you understand your community, your students, and where they're coming from. And if we can just come alongside you in partnership, letting you lead, I'm just so excited to see what's going to happen because of your servant leadership there, Principal Hare. So thank you so much for leading there. So Pastor Gusta, I would love to hear from you how and why you and Greater St. Matthew first got involved at Bastion, and now how things are going now that you're involved at Worthing. Thank you so much for being here and for your awesome leadership.
I'm so excited to be here. I thought it was so awesome to be asked to be here. So it's my pleasure. Mr. Hare, man, you just doing an awesome job, man. I'm scared to follow that up, man, but I'm just so impressed by what you're doing, and we're excited to work with you. And I'll talk about that. But first of all, I see all the reindeer hats and all the hats. We're festive here. That is awesome. You have the spirit no matter what happened in 2020. But I just want to say this, no matter what's going on here, God is still faithful. God is faithful because he allows you to flourish in your gift if you're faithful and you have the right heart. And I like that because we can look down on 2020, but I love 2020 from the standpoint community-wise, which has allowed us to leave a bigger footprint on our community in different ways, because we couldn't do the run-of-the-mill type things. We can do so much more now. So I'm just excited, first of all. And let me say, working with these gentlemen, Adam, Pastor Darrell, he's an awesome pastor here, and he grew up in the neighborhoods. If anyone can speak about it, it's him. And Mr. Hare, I think there's no such thing, Marilyn, even you meeting me, there's no such thing as a coincidence. God ordains everything. and you don't know how it's going to happen. That's how awesome he is. Just to talk about my church, my father started the church, Gusta Booker, in South Park in 1968. He was 23. And so you can imagine between 68 and 2018, the change he saw in the community. The community aged, it changed, diversity, or wise, it just changed so much. But he had a heart for the community from the get-go. And my mother, she was an educator as well. And seeing the community change, I was raised by a two-parent family. And that's not popular nowadays in a lot of schools we go to. And the fact that I had that, I felt that there's no way you can rest on your laurels and say, hey, I had this and I had this responsibility. We had food. There's no way you can do that. You shouldn't be comfortable with that. You have to give back. And I saw my mom, she worked with the magnet schools with the late Theola Booker. She taught piano and violin at Parker Elementary. So I started back trying to work at Parker Elementary. And so I went there and I ended up working with the child. I said, I could work with more than one child. Next thing you know, I had 5 or 6, and they thought I was the best thing since sliced bread. And these guys just needed somebody to talk to them, you know? And the next year after I started there, a company wanted to come in and wanted to get credit and wanted to get a blast for saying, this is what we're doing community-wise. So they put the people out who had been working really hard and had a heart for the school so they could get the hours for their company. Well, okay, again, there's no such thing as a coincidence. God moved us further on out to this side of town. Now I can get our men involved from the church, our mother church. There are 2 locations, but the mother church is in South Park. And I said, well, I can maybe get the men involved. So we went to Woodson, and it wasn't a great, I don't think we were welcomed with open arms, not an indictment on anyone. But when I reached out to Hare, he was like, what? Oh, yeah, come on. And I was like, why is he talking to me? You know, but he said, come on out. And we definitely can use you and the men. We would love to have you a part of the kids' lives. And if anyone's from over in that area, they know that when Mr. Hare used to have the parents' night, he had a lot of grandparents rearing the kids and a lot of people coming who just didn't have anyone. I brought our men over there. So we regularly had between 8 and 13 men would come weekly and try to at least do an hour. Some wanted to do math, this, that, and that. I said, hey, Mr. Hare, wherever you needed me. So I would just come over and be there. We had one child, his mother, she had some things going on. And she said, why is this guy, who is this guy, Mr. Booker? And I ended up talking to his grandmother, Reverend Booker. She said, this child, and I had never told Mr. Hare, she said, this child has never had anybody positive in his life as a role model, as a male. Maybe he saw police, but there hadn't been anyone in his life. And you guys are the only one that are there. Imagine this going to 8, 9, 10 years old and not having any type of man in your life. And these young gentlemen need that, you know? So our men came over and just spending time with them to have the kids come in there and say, hey, Mr. Booker, I mean, that just warmed my heart. And our men, they were so excited. We had men that come to our men's meeting from different churches that came out, but it's important that they do that. And you might say, hey, we can't go there and say, turn to this scripture or what church you go to. But I tend to see, and Adam, I pray that Darrell, you agree with me on this. If you come with that faith and you come with something inside of you, ingrained inside of you, or something that a little bit set apart, that God blesses you with, and you show his characteristics, I feel that they can see something in you, that's something that's greater than you, you know, that you have to tell them about. Because I've been taught that kids would look at you and say, I can't hear what you're saying because of what I'm seeing. So they need to see what you're doing in their lives. And number 2, they have to know that you care. I told Ms. Hare that I wouldn't have the men come unless they were dedicated to giving an hour in coming, because they had said some people would come to a school and kids would have a trust factor in them, and then they would never see them again. And that leads to disappointment that they had before. So I wanted to make sure they saw me, even if they're testing, I stick my head in there. And I got them in trouble one time. They were running to the door, Mr. Booker. They were like, I did not tell you to get up. You know the instructions. I was like, oh no, I'm getting them in trouble here. but I just felt that that's love for kids to know that you care about them. My father has a saying here, you can't teach them until you reach them. And if you find a man that's hungry, he can't hear anything that you tell him until he knows that you care. So I think it's my job and my Christian responsibility to reach back to our community, give back to others who couldn't do it. And I'm not saying this, Mr. Hare, when you hear and then stab you in the back when you leave, I promise. But I'm just excited that you're the one that's leading us. Because I mean, Marilyn, I said, oh man, he's doing so good turning this school around in Bastion, we're going to lose him. You know, and sometimes they take him from the community, but he was able to go to Worthing, and God is so good. Now he can affect all the feeder patterns and reach out to everyone. Oh, also, let me say this too. I like the fact that we can do more as a church if you have a principal who's there, and we form these and cultivate these relationships. Because Mr. Hare has a heart like my mother. My mother was from a time where the teachers acted like they lived in the neighborhood. You knew your teacher was there and they could talk to your parent. He came out in the apartment complexes this summer when COVID was ravishing the area, and we got to come out and come to all those different areas, and he did it every week. And I love to do it. My mom said, you're too hyper, but I can use that energy to do something for the kids and give back. So again, on this program that we're doing, as I close, I'm so excited working with Pastor Darrell Jackson, a very talented individual and music guy, man, awesome, but just excited to work with them. So I want to say this, if you're from a small church or you know someone who has a small church, you can partner together to make a difference. I don't care how small you are, how big you are. If it's just an hour a week, it can make a difference in the kid's life. And if you have it going on, remember, every child, they're struggling. And I know in our neighborhood, so we want to make a difference. So if I went over, I do apologize, Marilyn, but I'm just so excited about what we're doing in the community. So thank you, guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Reverend Booker. And I love that his title at Greater St. Matthew is the Community Development Director. I love that that's an integral part of your church and of who you are as a believer, and that you are leading others in your church, other men in your church especially. I love that, to go and to love kids in the neighborhood. So thank you so much, Reverend Booker. And to follow up on that as well, Adam McCain has an awesome mentoring program that he has brought over to Worthington. So Adam, would you share a little bit more about your involvement in this collaborative?
Like everyone else, I'm truly blessed and honored to be asked to speak today. I'm a member of Harvest Point Church. We got connected because a member of the church was an alumni there. They said they had some needs. I had a nonprofit program, and I also am the youth director for the high school over at Harvest Point in Pearland. And so our pastor also has a heart for the community. So we went over, established a relationship. Of course, the principal moved, but then Mr. Hare came in. And what we did with BJ's help and collaboration, he brought all of us together. He brought us together to make this collaboration be something holistic. And Mr. Hare imparted his vision on that, so therefore we can touch the community. But also there may be opportunities through the mentoring program and through the school for people in the community to be impacted as well by partnering with us. So say, for example, a kid needs food, things of that nature. They already have programs in place, but we don't know who all are involved. But then to help that parent be a part by volunteering some time, so therefore the resources from other churches, such as Harvest Point or Greater St. Matthew, can contribute and do it in a collaborative way. We can't reach everyone, but we want to reach one person like we would reach everybody. So our job here at AdamsWalk is really just to walk along with these young men through the journey called life and help them identify their God-given purpose. Because a lot of times we don't know where we're going because we don't know why we're here. We're not saying you're going to find the answers today, but we have to remember, we have to kind of be like how Samuel didn't know the voice of God was talking to him until Eli said, hey, that's God talking to you. Yeah, I may have not been the best pastor, the best parent, but I know God is talking to you, and let me show you. So we all need mentors, because just like with a coach, you go further, faster with coaching than you do by yourself. And these young men need that. So what I've been able to do during the pandemic, of course, it's been difficult because first of all, kids spend tons of hours on the computer. They're drained, they're worn out. You don't have the face-to-face interaction. So just developing some programs. And I spoke to Principal Hare a little bit before we actually started putting these pieces together. And the goal is hopefully in January or February, when school starts back up after the holidays, we will do like a motivational Monday where the kids can come in early prior to school, maybe have some donuts or something, and it can be for boys and girls, just to uplift them and encourage them, to have them an opportunity to vent. And then with the partnership of churches, as we identify young ladies that need that support, then we can reach into our church and those different groups and say, hey, we have a young lady that needs this. We have someone that does that. Because when we're not able to mentor as we would like to due to resources, we can also contribute. Because what we sometimes do, we got with the wraparound specialists last year and did some incentives for kids as far as attending school, utilize some of our resources connecting with other nonprofits to be able to impact those youth. So as Pastor Booker said, just lending the hand. We have to be the hands and feet of Jesus. Because how are we light and salt of the earth and we're not here to feed you? See, I'm gonna show you how to fish. Yeah, I'm gonna give you some food so you can hear me first, but I gotta show you how to fish. So I'm just thankful to have this opportunity to come alongside these wonderful men with this vision, because it is God sent. The fact that we have an opportunity to do things that have not been done, to have some middle school kids come up to the high school to get influence, and therefore you lay that foundation. And we're just going to continue to nurture and water. We're just excited to have this time, and everyone that's came along and put the time in. Big kudos to BJ Ramon, because he was a vital piece. He was the hub. And so it's just good to see God work. And 2020 has allowed us to refocus, and also for the church to get back to its rightful place as a pillar in the community and no longer a poster board. See, because so often we sit back and say what we want to do and what we say are wrong. But if we are truly believers in Christ, we are supposed to walk the walk. We're supposed to go and be there. So we're starting here as a plant, and this can be a model for other places. So I'm just excited. I thank you, Principal Hare, for being open and allowing us to come in to work with you. I just want to say again, thank you for this opportunity, and I'll be looking forward to working with all of you in different areas in regards to AdamsWalk, because we know we all have limitations, but we also have to not be afraid to go and ask our brother or sister, hey, I need a little bit of help. So thank you. I'm just excited to be here and just see everyone on the call to celebrate this festive season. Even though it's 2020, feel like we've been here 5 years. I'm excited because all it does is let us refocus our vision on what's important. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Adam. I think I'm going to have to make a shirt or something with what you just said about the church being a pillar and not a poster board. Wow. And Adam didn't share this, but I got to talk with him earlier this week, and he used to be a football coach. And it's really neat how a lot of his mentoring components comes from his experience mentoring kids, not maybe officially, but like in that kind of a coach role as a football coach for his players. So thanks so much, Adam, for everything that you're doing and just for using your life experience to be another role model and voice in these students' lives. And we do look forward to learning more from you. All of us who are mentoring or who have mentoring programs, will look forward to learning from you, Adam. So thank you. All right. And our final person on our panel is Darrell Jackson. And he is going to be sharing about how his faith and work curriculum really equips and empowers the students. So, Darrell, I'm looking forward to hearing you share today.
Thanks, Marilyn, and I appreciate the opportunity to come on today and just to share more about faith in work, faith in finances programs that we have here at STCH Ministries, on what it is that we're doing in the 77051 community in that Sunnyside collaborative with Principal Hare and Adam, Loving Houston, BJ Ramon, Pastor Booker. When we began to sit down about a year and a half ago. Actually, Marilyn, if you remember, we started, you and I and Josiah Lay from Apartment Life, talking about the importance of pooling our resources and really being able to leverage our resources in different communities, and how many times we're siloed. We're doing a lot of great things on our own. And just put it in a nutshell before I start talking about the two programs very briefly. I want us to think about the idea of many times, many of us are doing great things, but we're doing them alone. And when we think about it, it's really many people's story over God's glory. It's our unique stories over God's glory. And that's not how it should be. It should be God's glory over our individual stories. And at the end of the day, that's what we've been trying to do as we started talking. We started one community, 77051. What would it look like to leverage the resources, the churches, the schools, homes, Christian business owners, where we're bringing all of these entities together in every community and beginning to see God's glory over our individual greatness. And so that's what we started doing. And so we began talking. We sat down with Dennis Turnipseed with Eyes on Me and BJ Ramon, and we started talking and just said, man, what does this look like? And Dennis said, well, why don't we just start in Sunnyside? We just start over there. And it's great because I grew up in Sunnyside. I grew up in South Park, so I know the area. And I understand some of the needs that are there. And so when we began to talk to Principal Hare and Adam came on board, so many others have begun to say, you know what, I'm in, let's get it done. We began to dream. We went to Principal Hare and just told him the vision. What was so amazing is this guy blew me away in the first meeting. I fell in love with the principal. I mean, I'm like, man, I'm just amazing. This guy, we told him the vision. And this guy said, okay, let's get it done. Let's do it. And I'm like, wait a minute, this can't be real, right? It can't be real. But he said, let's get it done. Then he began to tell us about the technology building that's there, 30, 40,000 square foot facility that we'll be able to use to conduct the programs out of that particular location. Man, who does that but God? And so that's amazing with the two programs that I offer, Faith in Work, Faith in Finances. So I serve as the director at STCH Ministries. STCH Ministries is a debt-free, Christ-centered ministry who's committed really to serve children and families and have done so for over 60 years. We have 9 programs, and we offer all of our programs at no cost to the participants, 2 of which I'm blessed to be a part of, Faith in Work, Faith in Finances. Faith in Work is a curriculum really that helps people discover God's purpose for their lives and how to really fulfill that purpose through their work. And when we say through the work, the overarching theme is not just their jobs, it's really the work, the mission, the ministry that God has called us to. So that's Faith in Work. Faith in Finances really teaches practical money management skills. And we at STCH Ministries are really proud of these programs because as we've been teaching them throughout the communities, lives are being transformed. I don't see any difference here in this community as we're partnering with these great ministries and churches and business owners, bringing this information to bear in this community that is crying out for need. And I heard someone say it earlier, and I'm done. We're looking holistically. Again, the partnerships are really designed to be holistic. I made a challenge to some people a few years ago about the paradigm shift that is really going to be needed to forge ourselves into the future. I mean, in a world that's really, I would say, rapidly dividing at every level, our future really depends on, I would say, healthy kingdom-centered partnerships. And that's what we're doing. That's what we believe, that as we begin to focus all of our attentions with our programs, again, at no cost, we're not charging a dime. We just believe that God's kingdom work needs to get done in that community and across the city. But we believe that we're better together. We need to stop being great alone and really begin to look at the image that this will send to the world of being together. 1 Corinthians 12, right? That we are serving, and we're serving in our uniquenesses, and we're not in competition, but we're working in concert in ways that will really make this Sunnyside area better. And then when we leave 77051, we go to 77033, we go to 77021. The model begins to grow across our city. Relationships that restore, reconcile, and reproduce. That's what I believe this collaborative is about. Thank God for you, Marilyn, and what Loving Houston is doing across the city. You have some amazing things going. We're so blessed, Stitch Ministries, to partner with you. And I pray that this particular collaborations and those like it will continue to grow, and that God will get the glory. We won't just focus on our story, and that people will be blessed. So thank you again for allowing us to be a part of this.
Thank you so much. Oh, that was so good. Thanks, Pastor Darrell, for casting the vision for what you want to see in your zip code. But I love the fact that we have people on this call from zip codes all across Greater Houston who can take what you all just shared about today and run with it. So thank you so, so much for leading in this way.